Hey guys, Miss King here, and in this screencast we're going to look at our second indicator for Unit 3. We're going to be summarizing the structures and functions of organelles in eukaryotic cells. So this is a picture of a cell, and you'll notice that it has tiny little things on the inside of it. These are called organelles. Organelle, L is a suffix that means tiny, so these are literally tiny organs. So kind of like you have organs in your body, like your brain makes your body function, and your heart pumps your blood, and your stomach digests your food. The cell has its own set of organs inside of it that have their own jobs to do. So what we're going to look at is what those organs are and what they do. Let's do an animal cell first. So on an animal cell, the first thing we're going to start with is the cell membrane. So let me change to my pen, and our cell membrane, we're going to draw just a big circle, kind of like this. Alright, and we'll put a label on it. I'll just use that little line right there. This is number 1, cell membrane. And its job is to control what goes in and out of the cell. So this would be the outside of the cell. And then this area would be the inside of the cell. Alright, our next organelle is the cytoplasm. The cytoplasm is just a jelly-like substance that contains our organelles on the inside of the cell. So all of this empty area inside the cell is considered cytoplasm. So we can label that number 2. We'll just put a number 2 right there. Alright, number 3 here, the nuclear membrane. The nuclear membrane is the membrane that controls what goes in and out of our nucleus. Now I'm going to draw that in sort of a 3D structure. So right here, this whole thing will be my nucleus. And I want to be able to see inside my nucleus. I'm going to do a little semicircle, kind of like that. Okay, so here's my nucleus. In this outer area, we'll label that number 3 is our membrane. So that's the nuclear membrane. The nucleus itself is the whole thing. So we'll label this, and I'll change the color. We'll label the nucleus number 4. And the nucleus is our control center. This is the area of the cell that controls everything that goes on inside the cell. Inside the cell is our DNA, or what we might call chromatin. I'm going to change the color again and put some chromosomes or some chromatin in there. It might look kind of like that. Also inside the cell, we need what's called a nucleolus. And that's this word right here, nucleolus. It's a very dark, dense area inside the nucleus. So it looks kind of like that. And I'll even change the color to white and see if I can put a tiny little number 5 right there for the nucleolus. Okay? The next organelle on our list is a ribosome, and ribosomes make proteins in the cell. So those are the little organelles responsible for making different proteins. Let me pick a different color here, and I'm going to change my size. Ribosomes kind of look like little dots around the cell. They're very, very tiny organelles. So we can label that ribosome is number 6, so we'll label that number 6. All right. And then we have our endoplasmic reticulum for number 7. The endoplasmic reticulum, or the ER, is a special substance that transports materials around the cell. So it's kind of like a little highway in the cell, and it looks kind of like that. I'll put another one up here, kind of like that. Now, our ribosomes, or excuse me, our ER, I'm going to move this up so we can see it. There we go. Our ER, there's 2 different kinds. We have a smooth ER, which means there's no ribosomes attached to it. And then we also have what's called a rough ER, and it has ribosomes attached to it. So I need to put some ribosomes, and let me change my pen again. I need to put some ribosomes on my ER. So this one would be a rough ER because it has ribosomes attached to it. And this one up here would be a smooth ER because it has no ribosomes attached to it. Okay, and we will label that, since the ER is number 7, we'll label that number 7. All right, next on our list is a Golgi body. A Golgi body is going to modify and package proteins within our cell. I'm going to do that one in orange. So I'm going to put that down here at the bottom. It's kind of like a stack of flattened pancakes, kind of like this. And this little stack of flattened pancakes sometimes has little packages floating off of it like that. Okay, these little packages, these are our packages of our proteins and our other materials that the Golgi is putting together for the cell. And those little packages are called vesicles. So this right here is the vesicle. And we're going to label that, since the Golgi is number 8, we'll label it number 8. All right, next on our list is a vacuole. We'll do that in a different color. Vacuoles are just areas where cells can store things, like it might need to store nutrients for later on, or it might need to store some parts to build some proteins or something like that. So it's basically stores things. So I'll put a couple of vacuoles in here. They're just little small storage areas. And vacuole's number 9, so we'll label that number 9. All right, next on our list is a lysosome. A lysosome is a very special organ inside the cell that helps digest unused materials or any debris that it might find in the cell. So let's put, right here is a lysosome. And I'll put another one right here. And what's special about lysosomes is that on the inside of the organelle, it actually has little digestive enzymes. And those enzymes are what digest those unusable materials. So the little dots that we drew are enzymes inside of our lysosome. Okay, and let's label that number 10. All right, in an animal cell, we also have centrioles. So let's draw, a centriole is a special organelle that assists during cell division. When we get to cell division, we'll actually see what these little guys do. But for right now, they kind of look like funny looking crosses. And they're usually located pretty close to the nucleus. We'll put another one right here. Okay, and these are centrioles, so let's label this number 11. All right, the next organelle on our list is a mitochondria. Mitochondria make ATP energy from the food that we eat, and they're kind of shaped like a kidney bean. So when we draw it, we want to give it that sort of bean shape. We'll put another one over here. And on the inside of our mitochondria is a special little squiggly membrane. It looks kind of like that. That special little membrane is called the cristae. That's actually where the ATP is made inside the mitochondria. And that is our number 12. So let's label the mitochondria. Number 12. Okay. All right, I'm going to move this up for you. Our next item on the list is our cytoskeleton. Let's pick a different color for that. We'll use gray. Now, the cytoskeleton is a special organelle that helps support the cell. This membrane is very flexible and it's almost a little flimsy. So we're going to have some special structures called the cytoskeleton, and they kind of work like a scaffolding to help support the cell and keep it from falling in on itself. We'll put another one right here. Okay. Now, the cytoskeleton also includes some other special structures called cilia. Cilia are going to help the cell with movement, and they're very tiny little hair-like structures. So let's put on the outside of our cell membrane some tiny little hair-like structures. And these little guys help move things across the cell membrane. And then we also have what is called the flagella. Change the color again. Now the flagella is more like a tail instead of like little hairs. So, and usually there's only one flagella. So on our cell, let's draw a little tail like structure. Kind of like that. So this will be our flagella. And what it does is it helps propel the cell so that the whole cell, can move from one place to another. And everybody should recognize the flagella. This is the little tail that you see on the bottom side of a sperm. And that's what helps it move and swim to the egg. All right, so these are basically the parts that make up our animal cells. Just to kind of take a minute to look at some of these things, you'll notice that some of them are very similar. Like our ERs look very similar to our Golgis. There's a couple of things that you can do to tell the difference between them so that you don't mix them up. So if you're looking at your ERs, they're usually a long tube-like structure, whereas the Golgi is more like a stack of flattened pancakes. And also the Golgi is going to have these special little packages called vesicles coming off of them. The ER will not have little vesicles. So look for these things in the cell diagrams when you're trying to determine what organelles you're looking at. Also, our rough ER has ribosomes attached to it. So if you see the ribosomes, you'll be able to tell that this is an ER and not a Golgi. Also, we need to be able to tell the difference between our lysosomes and our vacuoles. And one of the big differences that you'll be able to see is that the lysosome's going to have enzymes inside of it. So you will see something inside of the lysosome. Most of the time, our vacuoles will just contain water, so they'll look like they're just big empty circles. Okay, so that's an animal cell. Let's go ahead and look at a plant cell next. So I'm going to turn the page. And there are a couple of items that we will see in plant cells that we don't see in animal cells. So let's start back at the beginning for our plant cell. And with our plant cell, one of the things that we need to have in the plant cell that we're not going to have in our animal cell is a cell wall. And I am going to draw that kind of like that. Okay, so there's our cell wall, and we can label that number 14 so that we know that that's our cell wall. The cell wall is not the same thing as the cell membrane. The cell wall is only for protection and support of the cell. It does not control what goes in and out of the cell like the cell membrane does. Be very careful not to mix that up if you're asked a question about the cell wall. Now the cell membrane is going to be just inside of our cell wall, kind of like this. All right. And our plant cell is going to have pretty much the same organelles as our animal cell. So we need to put a nucleus. Let's go ahead and draw the nucleus the same exact way we did the last time. Inside of our nucleus, we need to have a nucleolus. So we can put that in there. And we also need some chromosomes or some DNA. So we can put that in there. Squiggly looking stuff. All right. We need to have mitochondria. So let's put some mitochondria in here for some energy. Plant cells have to be able to make energy as well. And we can even put the cristae in there again. That's that squiggly membrane. Kind of like that. Plant cells will also have a rough and smooth ER. So let's go ahead and put our ER. There's one. I'll put another one right here. Okay. And we need to add some ribosomes to one of our ERs so that we have a rough ER and a smooth ER. Remember, ERs transport things through the cell. And we need a vacuole. Now, with plant cells, the vacuole is going to be very large. Plants can't just get up and grab a glass of water anytime they want to. So they're going to need to be able to store large amounts of water for very long periods of time. So the vacuole is going to be very large in a plant cell. Kind of like that. Okay. And you can label that. I don't remember what number it was. Let's put vacuole so that we know. All right. Our plant cell will also have some lysosomes with the enzymes. We'll put another one over here. Plant cells do not have centrioles, so we don't want to add any centrioles. They will have cytoskeleton, so we can put some cytoskeletons in there, kind of like that, for support of our cell. We'll put another one over here. And we need some ribosomes throughout our cell as well. Let's add just some free-floating ribosomes. Like that. All right. We need a Golgi. Plant cells also have Golgi in them, so let's do a Golgi right here. Golgi are usually located towards the edge of the cell. All right, there's a Golgi, and let's draw some packages coming off of our Golgi. Kind of like that. All right, and then our number 15, the organelle that plants have that animals don't, is a chloroplast. Chloroplasts are going to convert sunlight and carbon dioxide into food for the plant, and that's called photosynthesis. So our chloroplasts need to be sort of in the shape of a walnut, kind of like that. And they've got these special little, almost look like little lines, but they're actually little discs on the inside, and those discs are called thylakoids. All right, and we can label this number 15 because that's our chloroplast. All right, and those are the little organelles, or the parts that make up a cell. All right, guys, be ready to review and identify the structures and the functions of those organelles in class.